Have you ever stopped to think that many of the Bible verses we quote daily may have a completely different meaning than what we learn? In this article, we will unravel the true meaning of 13 verses that over the years have been misinterpreted by many. From "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me" to "Judge not that you may not be judged," each explanation will shed light on common misinterpretations and reveal how these words can truly impact your life. This is not just a reading, it is an invitation to transform your understanding and strengthen your faith in ways you never imagined. Let's challenge established beliefs and explore together the true treasures hidden in Scripture. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Philippians 4:13. It is common to hear this phrase in challenging situations as if it were a magic trick to overcome adversity. However, as we take a closer look at the biblical context and Paul's experience, we realize that the real meaning goes beyond simple material or personal achievements. Paul was highlighting his ability to find contentment in any circumstance, whether in abundance or scarcity, and this through the strength that Christ gave him. This understanding challenges us to rethink our own interpretation of challenges. Rather than seeking only to overcome obstacles with a vague hope of victory, we are invited to seek a contentment that transcends external circumstances. This can be applied in daily life when facing times of financial uncertainty. For example, where the real strength is revealed in the serenity with which we deal with the situation and not just in the quick resolution of the problem. Moreover, this teaching of Paul offers a different perspective on resilience. Instead of arming ourselves with a false sense of invincibility, we can lean on the strength that comes from an inexhaustible source, faith in Christ. This does not mean that we will never face defeats, but that we can endure any situation, learning and growing in the midst of adversity. It's a lesson that can be especially valuable for young people at the beginning of their careers, showing that true strength lies not just in achieving success, but in how we maintain our integrity and contentment through the ups and downs. Judge not, lest ye be judged. Matthew 7:1. Jesus' warning about judgment is often interpreted as a total prohibition on judging others, but a closer look reveals important nuances. Jesus was pointing to the need for personal reflection before criticizing anyone. This underscores the importance of self-criticism, an essential tool for anyone who wants to cultivate healthy and constructive relationships, whether in the workplace or in their personal life. By applying this principle in daily life, one can, for example, avoid conflict by pondering one's own shortcomings before pointing out those of others. This not only promotes a more peaceful environment, but also encourages a posture of empathy and understanding. This approach is especially valuable in family discussions or team meetings where harmony and mutual respect are key. Finally, by understanding that Jesus did not forbid judging but rather warned against hypocritical judgment, we can strive to be more fair and balanced in our assessments. This teaches us to be fair, thoughtful, and to use judgment as a tool for personal and collective growth, rather than as a weapon of destructive criticism. This lesson can be a valuable point of reflection for leaders and managers, encouraging a culture of constructive feedback and authenticity in the workplace. Ask me, and I will give you the nations for an inheritance. Psalm 2:8. We often interpret requests for material blessings literally, but the biblical context shows us a deeper, more spiritual insight. The verse is a messianic prophecy that speaks of the Messiah's promised dominion over the nations, not a generic promise of power or material success. This perspective changes how we should view our prayers and aspirations, focusing more on spiritual purpose and alignment with divine plans. This understanding can be applied to the development of leaders who seek to positively influence society. Rather than seeking power for power's sake, leaders can aspire to have an impact that transcends material success, seeking to promote justice, peace, and social well-being. This vision is especially relevant for non-governmental organizations and social movements whose mission is to promote meaningful change. Moreover, reflecting on this verse encourages us to consider the nature of our ambitions. Instead of craving control or domination, we can seek to inspire and serve others by aligning our goals with higher values. This type of leadership can be extremely influential in corporate environments, where integrity and commitment to the common good can define organizational culture and guide strategic decisions. Where two or three are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. Matthew 18:20. This verse is often seen as a promise of divine presence in any gathering of the faithful, but its true context lies in ecclesiastical discipline and the authority of decisions made in community. This teaches us about the importance of community and shared responsibility in collective decisions, whether in religious contexts or in collaborative projects in the workplace. By applying this idea in everyday life, we can see how decisions made in a group, with everyone's consensus and collaboration, tend to be more robust and inclusive. This is especially useful in settings such as startups or project teams, where innovation and creativity are fueled by collective input and mutual commitment. Moreover, this approach reinforces the concept that it is not just the quantity, but the quality of the union that defines the effectiveness of a group. In the corporate world, this can be translated into forming teams based on complementary competencies and a shared purpose, fostering an environment where the divine presence can be interpreted as the perfect synergy between team members, leading to extraordinary results. The love of money is the root of all evil, 1 Timothy 6:10. This verse is often misinterpreted as a condemnation of money itself, but the real focus is on the excessive love of money. This teaches us a valuable lesson about priorities in life and how exacerbated materialism can distract us from more important values, like integrity, compassion, and spirituality. This understanding is crucial in an increasingly consumerist society. In the practical context, especially in the business world, this perception can guide professionals to balance the search for profitability with ethics and social responsibility. For example, an entrepreneur may decide to integrate sustainability practices into their business, not only aiming for profit, but also promoting a positive impact on the community and the environment. Additionally, by applying this wisdom to personal financial planning, we can avoid the trap of living solely to accumulate wealth. Instead, we can direct our resources towards investments that also promote our well-being and that of others, such as quality education, health and well-being, or even support for social causes, thus redefining the true wealth in our lives. Give, and it shall be given to you, Luke 6:38. This verse is often interpreted as a guarantee of direct material return for acts of generosity, but its true essence lies in the cultivation of generosity, compassion, and forgiveness, with a special focus on spiritual and relational blessings. It inspires us to rethink the true value of giving, not as an investment for future gains, but as an act of kindness that enriches both the giver and the receiver. In practice, this can be reflected in acts of volunteering or in donations to those in need. For example, someone may decide to dedicate a few hours each week to helping out at an animal shelter or contributing to a scholarship fund, promoting education and opportunities for underprivileged youth. These actions, although they do not guarantee a material return, enrich the community and strengthen social bonds. In addition, this approach to giving can be especially significant in the corporate environment, where companies adopt social responsibility policies. Initiatives like these not only improve the company's image, but also contribute to a more positive work environment and a fairer and more balanced society, demonstrating that the true return of giving is in strengthened human relationships and the satisfaction of contributing to the common good. God's plans are for peace and not for evil. Jeremiah 29:11. Often used as a promise of personal success and prosperity, this verse actually refers to a specific promise made to the people of Israel in a context of exile. This reminds us to consider the historical and specific context of the scriptures to understand their correct application, thus avoiding interpretations that distort their original meaning. Applying this understanding in a modern context, we can use it as inspiration to face periods of difficulty with hope and faith in the future without expecting magical solutions. For example, in times of economic or personal crisis, this promise can serve as a reminder that challenges are temporary and that we should focus on constructive and peaceful solutions. Additionally, this verse can inspire leaders and individuals to take a more hopeful and optimistic approach to their strategies and life plans. Rather than giving in to despair or pessimism, we can choose to believe that even in challenges, there are opportunities for growth and renewal. This perspective can be particularly valuable in community or business initiatives that seek to promote peace and collective well-being. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Matthew 6:21. This verse alerts us to the importance of where we put our energies and values. The idea that our heart follows our treasures is an invitation to reflect on what we truly value. In a world where materialism is often prevalent, this teaching encourages us to prioritize eternal values rather than just material possessions. In practice, this means choosing to invest time and resources in things that promote spiritual and relational enrichment, such as spending quality time with family or engaging in community activities. This focus can help build a legacy of meaning and purpose rather than just accumulating wealth. In addition, this teaching can be particularly relevant in personal financial planning and financial education. Encouraging people to invest in experiences and relationships rather than just consumer goods can lead to a fuller and more fulfilling life. It's a powerful reminder that our financial and lifestyle choices reflect and shape our deepest values. God will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you can bear. 1 Corinthians chapter 10:13. This verse is often seen as a promise that we will not face hardships beyond our ability to endure, but Paul was really talking about temptation and God's faithfulness in providing a way out to resist. This teaches us to seek support and solutions in times of difficulty, recognizing that we are not alone in our struggles. By applying this principle to everyday life, we can find comfort and practical strategies for coping with challenges, such as seeking advice from a supportive community or turning to resources that help us get through difficult times. For example, someone going through a period of great stress at work may seek stress management techniques or support from colleagues and mentors. In addition, this teaching reinforces the importance of maintaining hope and perseverance. Knowing that there is a way out can encourage people not to give up in the face of obstacles, but to actively seek solutions. This is a valuable reminder in all aspects of life, whether personal, professional, or spiritual, and can be especially inspiring for those who serve as leaders or educators, teaching them how to guide others through challenges with wisdom and compassion. You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church. Matthew 16:18. This verse has been the subject of many interpretations over the centuries, with some currents believing that it designates Peter as the foundation of the church, while others see Peter's confession of faith as the true rock. This debate highlights the importance of exploring and understanding the nuances of sacred texts in order to capture their deepest messages. In a practical sense, this teaches us about the foundation of leadership and community. For example, in an organization, the foundation is not just the leader, but the shared values and visions that underpin the organizational culture. Effective leaders are those who can inspire others to adhere to these common values, building a solid framework that supports collective goals. In addition, understanding that the rock can be the shared faith and not just one person reinforces the idea that everyone in the community has a crucial role in supporting and growing the group. This is especially important in contexts where collaboration and mutual commitment are essential for success and sustainability. Therefore, this teaching can be applied to strengthen teams in diverse settings, encouraging a sense of ownership and active participation from all members. By his stripes we are healed. Isaiah 53:5. This verse is commonly interpreted as a guarantee of physical healing, but its context speaks more deeply of spiritual redemption and reconciliation with God through the suffering of the suffering servant, who is Jesus. This interpretation broadens our understanding of suffering and healing, placing the focus on the spiritual healing that Jesus provides through his sacrifice. In practical life, this perspective can influence how we deal with illness and adversity. Instead of expecting a guaranteed physical healing, we can find comfort and purpose in suffering, knowing that it can bring us spiritual growth and strengthening faith. This is particularly relevant for those facing chronic illness or prolonged health challenges. Additionally, this verse encourages us to look beyond physical healing and to seek restoration in all aspects of life. This can lead to deeper engagement in self-care practices that span both the physical and the spiritual, such as meditation, prayer, and fellowship with others who share similar challenges. Thus, we can lean on the hope of a more complete and holistic healing, which encompasses the body, mind, and spirit. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. Isaiah 40:31. This verse is often associated with the promise of an immediate renewal of physical or emotional strength, but its context suggests a promise of spiritual and emotional perseverance and resilience over time. This understanding teaches us about continued patience and faith, even when the changes are not immediate or visible. In practice, this can be applied when facing long-term challenges, such as recovering from an illness or overcoming a significant loss. The promise of renewed strength can serve as a reminder not to give up, to maintain hope, and to seek support in faith and community. Additionally, this insight can inspire leaders and individuals to encourage others during difficult times. Fostering a culture of support and understanding in settings such as the workplace or within community groups can be crucial in helping people feel empowered and supported on their journeys. I have come that they may have life and have it abundantly. John chapter 10:10. This verse is often interpreted as a promise of material prosperity, but Jesus was referring to a rich and fulfilling spiritual life. This interpretation encourages us to seek depth and meaning in our spiritual journey, valuing the quality of our relationships and experiences more than material possessions. In daily practice, this can inspire individuals to focus on enriching their lives through personal development, community engagement, and spiritual growth. For example, someone may feel motivated to participate more actively in community activities or to pursue spiritual practices that strengthen their faith and connection with others. Furthermore, this perspective can help redefine concepts of success and fulfillment in our society. Rather than measuring life by the accumulation of goods, we can measure it by the richness of our interactions and the positive impact we have on the world around us. This is particularly relevant in educational and organizational settings where a culture of valuing human and spiritual qualities can be encouraged. God is love. 1 John 4:8. This verse, God is love, is often quoted to express God's loving essence, but its meaning goes beyond a simple statement. It reflects the idea that love is not just a characteristic of God, but his very nature, which influences all his actions and the way he should influence ours. This teaches us about the importance of living a life that reflects this unconditional love in all of our interactions. In practice, this means that love should be the basis of our actions, whether at home, at work, or in the community. For example, a manager can use this principle to create a more supportive and cooperative work environment, encouraging a culture of mutual respect and care among colleagues. Furthermore, this understanding challenges us to be more empathetic and understanding with others, promoting forgiveness and compassion as responses to conflict and difficulty. This teaching can be especially valuable in educational settings or in community service, where human interactions are critical and frequent. After we have explored these 13 Bible verses and their true meanings, I hope you will feel inspired to apply these new understandings to your life. Reflecting on these teachings can not only enrich your faith, but also offer a new perspective on how to face challenges and interact with others. How about putting these revelations into practice? Consider ways you can apply these teachings in your daily interactions and in your personal and spiritual development. And you, are you ready to change your life? If so, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to continue learning and transforming through knowledge of Scripture. Let's go together on this journey of discovery and transformation.